What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Paranormal Council, where we are one council member short tonight. That's right. Sean Carter got a flat tire on the way here to the studio, actually, to his house. But he got a flat tire. He's dealing with that in the rain. And apparently, right before he got the flat tire, there was a 1.6 gigahertz frequency that showed up. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, but you guys who watch the show, you probably get that. Okay, so tonight we are going to be talking about Skinwalker Ranch, Hotspot, or Hoax. So for a lot of you that maybe watch the show, you're going to probably get some of the extra little references we might throw in there. For those of you that never watched the show, well, stay tuned because we still have a lot of content because we're going to be talking about skinwalkers in general. We're going to talk about UAPs, some scientific methods that we're wondering about, all kinds of fun stuff. So don't go away. Stick around. And also, if you have any questions, this is the show where you can participate in. And we also got some announcements to make. First off, though, thank you all of our regulars, for popping in there and saying hi. We love you guys. So we're glad that you are here. And a specific shout out to Andrea. We do want to say Andrea has made it onto Soulfire Paranormal officially. She is now an official team member full time. Still not paid yet, but she is a full member. She has been mentoring with Jen for quite a long time now. And so we're proud to have her on. She's already been helping with cases and all kinds of stuff. So she is definitely going to be an asset and already has been an asset to the team. So welcome aboard officially, Andrea. She is now Soulfire. So now she has to watch her mouth in the comments. All right. So, all right, let's get started. So, guys, Skinwalker Ranch, for some of you that may not know, Skinwalker Ranch, it is a real place. It is a ranch out in Utah, in was it Uinta? I always forget how to pronounce it. The Uinta Basin. So, the Uinta Basin, it's about 512 acres. And this place has been just riddled with paranormal activity as far as UFO type stuff, UAPs. And there's been other phenomenon, portals, dark shadows. There's an Indian curse apparently between, I think it's the Navajo and the Ute tribe. Is that correct? Is that the two tribes?
Mm-hmm.
I know one's the Ute tribe. The other one I think was the Navajo, and I think the Navajo cursed the land, and so that's where the Skinwalker stuff came from. So we'll talk about more of that as we get into it. But it's been a hotbed of activity. There's been scientific stuff there. There was a team there that did secret stuff with the government. Now there's been a show there for the last almost decade or so. And so if anybody's watched the show, you've seen all the different scientific, type things. It's interesting. So tonight we are going to get into that and talk. Is this just a lot of hot air? Or is this maybe is there some truth to this? So Jen, what do you want to kind of lead us into something here on this Skinwalker Ranch?
Well, I'll just say it. Like Skinwalker Ranch is kind of a guilty pleasure for Josh and I, but it's also from an interesting standpoint, right? It's kind of like watching another paranormal team investigate. On one hand, it's like, oh, that was cool, and then you're like, wait, why would you do that? That's not how we do science. Or where'd you come up with that answer? How'd you figure that out? Oh, wait, that's show production, right? So every episode for us ends up being a very long conversation about what's going on, what they're finding, how they're approaching it, what they left out, what we think their next experiment should be. So for us, it's more of an adventure and a ride than about the show itself, really.
Oh yeah, I mean
But
for sure.
it
Well,
ends up being fun. It's one of those, like when people used to watch the NFL a lot and they get those little um, sponges and they paint them up like the team and they get mad when the other team did something and throw the sponge at the TV. Yeah, that's me and Josh with pillows at Skinwalker sometimes. But it makes it fun. And definitely, we even talked about doing like outtake videos just so people could see the conversations that we have because they're downright funny.
Oh yeah, like a React video or something. Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually, yeah, Jen's right. We were talking about like maybe we should do some React videos to some of these, like, but but yeah, and the thing is like okay, so for some of you too on the show wise, and we'll get into some other things, but the show wise too, like it really started out um like season one, right? It was like a billionaire named Brandon Fugel. He purchased the property and wanted to make a ton of money. I mean, I'm just kidding. He wanted to investigate, probably both. He wanted to investigate Skinwalker Ranch, like with the most intense scientific, stuff. So he assembled a team. The chief scientist, a guy named Eric, whatever his last name is. We just know him as Eric. I don't remember his last name.
His last
Uh,
name's Bard, Eric Bard.
yeah, that guy. So he's kind of the chief scientist, but then you got sort of the front man who is an astrophysicist and everything else, Travis, and he actually did work with the government at some point. Like it becomes a plot twist in the show. Like you find out he's been working with the government. Like this is real stuff too. Like he really was heading up some UAP science. That whole 2022 when we talked about UAPs last episode. Yeah, he was involved in some of that back then. So but anyways, Travis is like this astrophysicist, like very smart dude, but he's kind of more of the rock and roll, like the out of the scientist goes. He's more of the front man. The guy that Mister Look Good and talk good, and he's got the little bit of accent, and so a lot of people like Travis. And then of course you got Thomas, who is like the head of the ranch, so to speak. He just runs a lot of the operations there. You've got a couple. There's like a man and woman couple that live there, and they kind of oversee some of the cattle and whatnot that's there, and some of the other household stuff. They maintain some farm stuff, right, Jen? And then I think we have security people. So for the first like 5 seasons, you had like Dragon and Caleb were like two of the security guys. Like Dragon was the head of security. And then Dragon's now off the show, and Caleb is now there. Let's see who am I? And they've brought in some other specialists now that do lidar and different special things. But anyway, so they've been doing these investigations. They've got their hotspots on the ranch, and they've been setting up different things. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting over the years, but it doesn't ever seem like we get true results. So that's been kind of the biggest criticism that I've seen from the show itself. It's just we don't seem to get like we get some things, but we just don't seem to actually get the big stuff, so to speak. The
Well,
stuff.
isn't that just how it goes with the paranormal? Like anytime we investigate, right? We may find some things that are there, we may debunk some things that are there, but ultimately at the end of the day, we're always left with more questions. Like, where did this come from? Why did it happen? Why did they experience this that way? Why did they think it was this? Why did it, wherever we investigate, we always leave with more questions than we have answers, which is why we come back or why we get different equipment or why we do consultations. That's just the game of paranormal, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the activity that goes on at the ranch, and this is where maybe even Stacy can join the conversation with us too, because I know he doesn't hasn't watched a lot of the Skinwalker stuff, so like the actual show. But we're going to get into some of the lore of Native Americans. So when you have two Native Americans that are turned rival, they used to get along, then they end up basically turning rival, right? And then the Navajo cursed the land, and that's where these skinwalkers supposedly started to happen. So you know how how real should we take that type of curse? Like, is that something that we should take seriously, or is this just sort of stories? Where do Native American curses like that fall into?
Is it my turn?
Sure, I'm trying to give you something that you can talk about.
Well, Native American curses aren't like Egyptian curses. The whole idea. Most of the curses that Native Americans had was more of a lore that took place from the opposing side, based bad things started to happen to them, and whoever they were in an argument with obviously cursed them, and that's what is usually involved. Um, you know, Nobody has come out and said, "Yeah, we cursed them" or "We cursed the land." It's always been the curse that has been the one that's saying, "Yeah, they cursed us." So, given that being accused of witchcraft is not unique to Puritans, I would give the curse idea a grain of salt, largely because they don't have anything in particular that is embedded in their, I wouldn't even call it religious doctrine, in their diaspora that has curses, witchcraft involved. It's always it's healing, and it's spiritual walks and understanding, and very hippy dippy. Curses
Right.
aren't really in their pantheon of things that they do. Um, so on that level, uh, I would go with whatever is going on there as being something beyond that, um, and they just threw that in there as part of the land dispute between the different tribes.
Right.
Well, they talk about it too, as in not necessarily a curse per se, but that it's a pathway for skinwalkers to travel. So I'm not sure, for me, there's a big difference there, right? Um, and again, it depends on the tribe that you talk to, because different tribes have different reasons, versions of why skinwalkers exist, what they're there for. Same thing with, like Bigfoot. They have different reasons, different names, different purposes. Sorry.
Yeah, they
Um,
have demons and things of that take human form, or even can be the spawn of demons. They were half human, half demon kind of thing. Um, the um, well, we have Rougarou, which is the French, but the uh, Wendigo is Native American. And it is the story that they tell each other, and have white cannibalism. No matter what situation they happen to be in, and they're starving to death, never engage in cannibalism, because it is something that invokes the demon and allows that demon to take hold of you, and you can't eat anything else but human flesh, because the Wendigo will possess you and force you into that state for forever. So
Yeah. And I'm gonna try to work on. I'm working on maybe pulling up some images for you guys, so we can actually look at a few things. Because I really want to make sure that some of you guys that maybe don't watch the show get a little bit more idea of what we're looking at. Um, we'll see if we can pull some stuff up here for you. So one of the big focuses. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let's see. Here we go. So this right here is an overhead shot of the ranch, um, and you can see where there's a triangular kind of road area, like when you see right toward the middle. I don't know. You guys probably don't see my cursor, huh?
no,
So, but there's a triangular shape right there. You guys can see that where the roads form a triangle. That's actually sort of the epicenter, what they've found for a lot of their activity. Now, above the road is a mesa. The mesa is about 100 feet tall ish or so. Um, you can walk up it, and but it's kind of steep, and whatever. But the mesa also holds some mystery right in there. But yeah, like the triangle there is sort of the epicenter. Um, Off to the right, it actually says Skinwalker Ranch. That's kind of the what they call like Homestead One, and that's where a lot of the main resident people stay there, and that's kind of their headquarters and all that. But when you go further down the triangle, off to the left, you're going to eventually get to what's called Homestead 2. And Homestead 2, if I can bring that up for you guys, um, that's another. Well, actually, I don't know if I'll be able to. Dang it! Urgh. I was trying to like. They're not going to let me share this image. So Homestead 2 is like old rundown ruins of a home, kind of thing. And this is where, more of the like us folks, the paranormal folks, get excited because this is where they start talking about creatures coming out of portals. They start talking about dark shadows, and portals in general from Homestead 2. Um, so so yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. Now there is a lot of Native American tie-in to the land, obviously, and I actually can share one thing here. This is an image from the show. So this here shows there's Travis on the right. He's the one scientist guy I was telling you about. There's Thomas, and of course looks like Dragon on the left with security. But they're actually looking at some markings, some Native American markings on the rocks. They actually had other experts out there that have analyzed, and there's actually some nearby neighbors that have similar markings on their properties and even more. So obviously, major Native American area, and again, it goes back with the history of the Ute tribe and the Navajo. So let's see. Kitty Cat's in there. My husband. Let's see. Okay, I don't know. That was part of a conversation. Maybe I'm catching the end of it. Okay. So I was, like I said, I was just trying to get you guys some of that stuff so we can kind of look at. But yeah, the triangle is another, like when we talked about this triangle here, another thing that they discovered again, and this is where we can get into a little more of some of their methodology or whatnot. But if you can imagine the middle of this triangle and you can expand out a large dome that's 2,000 feet in diameter upwards and across. Well, they found some dome that has been of like this energy and everything else. So every time they get to the edge of this boundary and like a lot of weird things happen, they've had many data anomalies over the last 7 seasons of the show. They keep trying all these different experiments, and I don't know, like there's some of them that really drive me crazy because I'm kind of like, they always act like, why are we having this anomaly? Well, they actually discovered that in this area, they actually showed a heat map, so to speak, except it was, um, what was it, Jen? It was magnetic anomalies,
I'm
right?
not sure which one you're talking about. They
The,
did
mag-
many.
the magnetic anomalies.
Yeah.
So they had these magnetic anomalies, and in the area of the triangle, they through some other like they keep bringing specialists in. This one guy did this scan and found that over that area there was 10,000 times more, magnetic anomaly than on normal areas. And then the funny thing is they seem to forget this every time later on in other episodes when they go, hey, I don't know why we keep having data or we keep having these problems. Why does these drones keep wrecking, or why does all this happen? Because you have an area that has a magnetic anomaly that's 10,000 times stronger than other areas on Earth, okay, than other places. Now, with that being said, it also pisses me off because on one view, they showed the magnetic anomaly, but they also showed further north of there was another one, but they didn't talk about it because I'm sure that's off the property. So they make it seem like it's like a unique thing, even though there's one just a little bit more.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because one of the claims that they make, right, is that Skinwalker Ranch has this like center of all these different types of activity. And it's one of their claims. But yet we see it repeatedly, even in their spinoff show, Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, when they're at, the Miller Ranch, they're at Bradshaw Ranch, they're at Mount Wilson Ranch. They go to all these other places that have all these same types of anomalies happening in those same places. And then, when you talk to anybody in the paranormal field, they've, pretty much anybody who's investigated, at least for a while, they've seen their own UAPs. They've had their own cryptid experiences. They've had all kinds of weird sensations, vibrations, the hair raising on their arms, on the back of their neck, being touched. We don't know what's causing these things, right? And in the paranormal, as investigators, we deal with portals all the time. So when they're talking about potential of portals at Homestead 2, right? It's like, okay, this is just another day in the life of a paranormal investigator. Or they talk about things like, time-space gap, right? When people are losing time, or they did the one experiment where they lost a percentage of a second, a quarter of a second or something like that in their data that they were recording. And it's like, that's not that uncommon. You hear about that, especially when investigating cryptids. It happens all kinds of places. So, I really argue with the fact of like, they claim this is the most haunted area, right? I really feel like because it's a TV show and they have all this money and this big money machine behind it and all this popularity, that they get to make these claims. But I think a lot of us in the paranormal field don't really take that seriously because we live it. I don't know. I mean,
Right. Well,
I can think of so many examples,
and I pulled up this here as an example. So this is a magnetic anomaly example of, um, obviously the North American continent, right? So you can see even toward like Utah areas, there's high amounts, but you can look at Mexico, Alaska, toward the North Pole. There's all kinds of magnetic anomalies, right? So it's not just unique to that area. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Like, but it's easy whenever you're having a TV show like Jen was talking about, you can zoom in and just pinpoint and say, look at this. This is crazy. But if you look at the big picture, like, well, how crazy is it when you have many other areas that are similar or even more, right? So that's kind of where we start looking at, like, okay, are they full of crap? Or are they just hyping things up? So if you wanted to argue for some of that, I can understand that, for sure. Now, I will say, I'm going to kind of talk a little pro talk here. I I think that I think there's things that are probably going on there. There probably is some strange things. I mean, when you do watch the show, even though yes, some things could be edited and stuff like that, but even in general, there's a lot, even in that area, not even on Skinwalker Ranch, but even in the surrounding areas, there's a lot of weird things that are happening. And some of the UAP activity, it is rather crazy. Um, and especially when they launch a rocket. Launch a rocket. That's
Well,
like every,
that makes
every
me
time.
think about the paranormal too, right? We use trigger items, right? Like they talk about digging, triggering activity, shooting a rocket, triggering activity. We have people, like some teams put them specifically on their team that it seems like no matter what area they walk into, activity happens. Something starts. They're just on that different frequency, that different vibration. They just attract it, right? So it's like we do that, they do that. There's a lot of similarities, and I will give them credit because they are doing work that most people don't get to see. Most people aren't on a paranormal team. They aren't doing the study. They aren't learning this stuff. They aren't scientists in a lab. They aren't reading case files all day long. It's not their field of work. So it's good that it brings that to them. And I do like the fact that they discuss regularly the difference between correlation and causation, right? Which is so crucial with investigations of any kind, whether it's just a regular investigation, an event, or learning about the paranormal field, or any of the work that we do, it's not the same thing. And experiences always get thrown into this correlation category. And then we talk about using devices to correlate even further to make the evidence stand out and make sense. Right? So I do like the fact that they do talk about correlation versus causation. Sometimes, though, like we talk about a lot on the show, is I think there's some bias in there as well. And there's also immediately jumping to what they've already seen correlated as the cause, though it could be editing, right? For the show.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. And
Well, back in the day, we did Enigma targets for remote viewing with Ed Dames, and Enigma are mystery targets. There's no way to actually prove anything, and Bigfoot usually is the favorite for Enigma targets. But the Skinwalker Ranch was one that was used as a project, and what came up, which was interesting, in one episode they talked about the area. You talked about the dome, but they talked about it in the show as being like the land under Skinwalker is like a parabolic dish. It's radiating, it's capturing and then radiating everything up to a particular point, which they're referring to as being like a dome. That parabolic dish is actually a secondary strike of a meteor underneath, right in that area. The whole area is basically a filled-in meteor crater, according to the remote viewing sessions. Secondary strike from the Yucatan dinosaurs. When the big meteor hit and hit the Yucatan, it blew a lot of material up into the air, pretty much everywhere. But huge chunks of the meteor itself landed in the Ute Mountains. And some of the topography that you see there is actually craters that have been filled in over time, and Skinwalker Ranch being one of them. No geologist has ever confirmed any of that. This has been strictly from remote viewing sessions, but I think it's interesting that they have this magnetic anomaly. Requires a lot of iron, requires a lot of deposits of some kind in that area, and they describe the area as being like parabolic. Those two things kind of coincide. Whether or not it's actually a meteor strike or a secondary meteor strike, I don't really know. But give a little bit of backstory on adding to the mystery rather than solving more of it.
Well, no, but I think that's actually a really good addition, Stacy, because so let me bring this back up here. So when you have the mesa, if you're looking at the left side of the triangle there, if you look toward the left side of the screen, you'll see a part of the mesa that's kind of disturbed a little bit at the ridge line area, stuff like that. And this is the area they've really been focusing a lot on. And that's because they think there's something big, large buried there. They keep leaning toward like it's some kind of crashed UFO that impacted in there and all this other stuff. But at the same time, they've been pulling out these ceramics, okay? These pieces of ceramics. And when they took them into one of the labs, literally under the electron microscope, when the electron microscope was turned on, the electrons was causing holes. It was causing it to become more porous. The pores were opening up, and when they turned off the electrons, then it actually self-healed. And they've been trying to test this stuff. There's some kind of cross hatch patterns in there on the surface that they've showed. And they also they put the actual sample in, was it liquid nitrogen? And of course, when you put a sample in there to cool it down, because they were trying to test to see if it was a superconductor. The only way to test if it's a superconductor, you have to get it down to, to that freezing level, to that minus whatever, 200 and whatever, that liquid nitrogen. Well, when they put it in there, it was sat there and boiled forever. Like it took forever to finally, it was acting. And they keep talking about, like Travis keeps mentioning all the time, it's like almost like a piece of heat shield from like the space shuttle, but yet it was buried deep, like 400 feet in the mesa. So they found multiple fragments of this stuff, but it hasn't exactly behaved. And even when they tried to carbon date it, it wouldn't carbon date because it's some type of, they couldn't even do that. They showed like how you can date certain ceramics, but then with this, it's not a ceramic. They some of the scientists were saying it was more like a plaster, but it's not a plaster, but it's like a plaster. But they just can't quite narrow this down through going through labs and things like that. So, however, one of the interesting things is that in this dig, when as they were drilling in from the side of the mesa, they went in like, I don't know, like a couple 100 feet, and then they started to turn upwards. Their goal was to come out of the top of the mesa, right? So they were going to go like 400 feet altogether, like in and up. And so they can do boreholes, 2 long boreholes on each side of this anomaly that's buried, right? That way they can get cross scans and all this other stuff. Well, they got near the surface, and of course they hit something really hard, and they had to stop drilling in borehole 2. They couldn't finish the last 33 feet, but they kept encountering this super hard stuff that was tearing through drill bits, but it wasn't like anything these drillers weren't used to hitting, because it would be smooth. It was almost like they're drilling on some kind of smooth surface, and it was like, but then their bits would end up getting chewed up after a while. And so, but anyways, some of that spoils came out of there into the spoils of the drilling. That's why they started finding some of the pieces of the pottery. So it is interesting to find out about that. Oh, but as they were also getting up, coming from the bottom, I think somewhere like in the 40 to 50 foot depth from the top, so to speak, they actually found a nickel, a human nickel. Now, for those of you that may not know the significance of that, it was dated 1964. And there's a professional archaeologist that is there going through all the spoils, from the drilling, and he's sifting through and he's trying to gather stuff. And so this archaeologist was like, hey, look, here's the thing. In the world of archaeology, when you do a dig, when you're done and you backfill it, before you fill it up, you throw a coin in with a date, so that way in the future, if somebody else digs, you're going to discover the year. So that's an interesting thing too, because that was found along with right around where the pottery was, or the ceramic, space material. Now, 1964 is significant because, again, this is when you had a lot of the mercury testing, right? With the spacecraft testing, there was a lot of lost aircraft with these heat shields, these experimental heat shields. There was a lot of, some of them not even recovered, maybe some recovered. So now, who knows? There could be a piece of one of these, test shuttles or test, capsules or something that crash landed in the mesa and could be leftover pieces of human technology that's been there for decades. I don't know. I mean, these are just speculations. They haven't been able to come across anything else that says otherwise. But
I think you've just recapped all of the highlights for the entire season. So it's spoiler alert every episode for our viewers.
spoilers. Well, look, we're watching an episode on Skinwalker Ranch, so we're doing an episode. So, but I just wanted to talk because that's significant when it comes to this material. Now we have possible human activity, right? So it's like before, if it was never disturbed by humans, right, that makes it even more interesting. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, clearly it was disturbed by humans because there's petroglyphs, right? So they were there long before. I don't know. It's interesting how they phrase a lot of the claims on the show, obviously for entertainment purposes. Um, I do think it's interesting though. Like I know they've given some attention to like having, the Jewish rabbi out there doing a portal opening blessing. And they've had the Navajo leaders out there doing ceremonies. Um, but I really feel like it's a common trend that I've seen, right? And we've talked about it before on other episodes about how there's this like gap between scientific fields, right? There's the physics and biology and things like that. Then there's your psychologists and maybe your neuroscientists as well a little bit, and your sociologists, your anthropologists on this side, and they're not helping each other, right? Or they're only looking at it through their lens. And I think it's interesting that for a ranch that's named after Skinwalker, they only touch on things so much. They only do a little bit here and a little bit there, and they don't approach it. Um, they call it science, but science also includes all of the possibilities and rules out inconsistencies, right? But there's a lot of methodology that they could be applying to it that they're choosing not to. But also, it's that whole idea of like, if we just leave the spiritual side out of it, which is your consciousness, your other dimensional, interdimensional beings, interdimensional things, right? We're ignoring like half the science intentionally under the name of science, which makes it very difficult to actually have a show about science, I think.
Well, that's the problem with science. Everything is specialized. You don't. There's no general scientist, and unlike a general MD who does family practice and he covers pretty much everything involved with that. Uh, you don't have that in the scientific field when you start talking about astrophysics, start talking about rocket science, you start talking about all these different, you know, uh, specialities that they've got their PhD in. They become very myopic in that, and they can't see beyond their particular field. Which actually brings me, Mark. This is touching upon what this was Ed Dames. I knew Ed Dames, and he was very good at remote viewing, uh, but he would take a little bit of evidence in what remote viewing was, and in a lot of cases, it was the worst case scenario with whatever data was coming up, because he was trained since he got in the military to assume that war was inevitable and war is ugly and all of that. They used to call him Dr. Doom at the White House because his specialty in the military before he was in remote viewing was nerve gas. And he tracked VX nerve gas being manufactured in different countries around the world. And the idea of that being used on a civilian population was horrific. Um, the nuclear war that he saw in his team actually ran with wasn't actually a war. It was nuclear testing that took place, which happened during the Bush administration. The W, where they were testing, North Korea was testing its nuclear capabilities and developed the bomb and MIRVs and all that kind of good stuff. He tracked all of that. He just misinterpreted the testing as being actual war, because they actually detonated a nuclear bomb in the ocean off the coast of South Korea as a test, as a basically a saber rattle to the West at that point, saying, "Don't even think about it." Uh, and after that, they didn't detonate anything else. That was the last. So Ed Dames was right ish. It just didn't turn into an actual full out war.
Okay. Well, that's good to clarify. But yeah, no, all right. So I also want to turn my attention back to what Jen was talking about with scientific things too. Is one thing that's plagued throughout the show whether you want to call it Skinwalker Ranch and things like that, is frequency anomalies. So they've had multiple times, every time something happens, 1.6 gigahertz frequency ranges show up, which of course is military, like satellite stuff, things like that. But they've been coming from the mesa, like because they've been pinpointing, using different techniques, with their antennas and stuff like that, to try to pinpoint where these are coming from on the ranch. There's been a 1.2 frequency ever since they started using that. There's been multiple different frequencies that they're happening, and then whenever these frequencies start to occur, things start to happen on the ranch, like drama ensues. So I don't know, but the thing is, like, and these scientists, Travis and Eric are really the two main scientists there. Everybody else is sort of not really scientists, right? They're part of the show and they help out, and they're assistants, you know. But even then, Travis and Eric, again, like, Eric's probably the most level-headed. Like, there's times when Travis does a lot more, I think, assumption stuff, or he's always kind of pushing it toward that UFO thing, or the spaceship in the ground. He's kind of more biased, I think, in that sense. Whereas, like, Eric sometimes will pull it back and be like, hey, let's, possibly, this. So he kind of is at least trying to get back to some of that. But I want to also point out that every time they have these frequencies, they're using these full spectrum analyzers, but they don't, and I think this might go to what Jen was talking about, is they don't point out. You would think, if anything, if something like that happens as a scientist, even on the show in front of people, you may want to say, hey guys, are we experiencing harmonics? Are we experiencing phantom frequencies? Are we experiencing thermal drift? Are we experiencing, what kind of things are we experiencing in these frequencies that may not be? Is there RF interference going on? Because guess what? Guys use their radios. They have a production, and they actually use a lot of walkie-talkies on the show. How do we know you're not getting RF? Did you talk about that in the show? Did you eliminate that? I know, like, even Jen and I, in the one of the investigations we did recently, we used walkie-talkies, and they kept triggering off some of our certain meters. We had some new meters that have RF abilities to pick up on, so we kind of stopped using the walkie-talkies just so we could stop getting any kind of false readings. So, but I think the point is when you watch the show, they immediately, as soon as they see these frequencies, they're like, what could be causing this? What's going on? Why is this always? But they don't talk about all these possibilities that could exist among, like, when you do these spectral analysis, these are things that could occur. So why aren't we talking about those? Because it's more dramatic to be like, oh my God, look at the signal, and it's associated with this, but it's not good science. It's good TV show. So I think that's where we are with that. Now, as far as Hotspot or Hoax, I don't know. We're gonna kind of like we'll sum up some thoughts here. Let's take a quick moment, real quick. I just want to talk about change the subject real quick. And first of all, guys, if you're watching this on either replay or you're live, just to let you know, Soulfire Paranormal, we are looking for somebody to help with social media. Okay, we're looking somebody that we're not going to pay you ever. I'm just kidding. No, it could lead to paid stuff later. Right now, we just need somebody that's enthusiastic, that's willing to help out. Somebody that loves to post on social media, and they maybe spend their days posting on social media or going through social media. But we would like a live person to kind of work with us on this. Something we'll talk to you more about. But if you're interested, hit us up. And of course, you've got all of our you got our email and stuff in the link below. You should be able to hit us up, soulfireparanormal@gmail.com. If you don't, but hit us up, let us know if you're interested. We can kind of go over the details, but we are looking for somebody to help us out with social media. We have a lot of things going on right now, and we definitely need that extra hand. So somebody that loves social media. I'm not a fan of social media, and that's probably why we need help. because I never could keep up with just one thing, much less now we have like 8 things. Also, let's talk a little bit of announcements, guys. I For those of you that don't know, I just released my new book. It's called Paranormal Investigations, complete field guide. I'm very proud of it. It is a start to finish field guide. So, Kitty Cat, if you're watching, you said you wanted to be a paranormal investigator. This book here, you can not only buy the book, it's going to walk you through step by step how to conduct a good solid paranormal investigation. And again, not it's not designed to where, hey, this is the only way, right? It's designed for all levels, whether you're beginner, whether you're even veteran. It's just a solid reference tool, a field guide that's going to give you that step from beginning to end on going through it, because there's a lot to a residential investigation or an investigation in general. A lot of reminders that it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. A lot of that stuff's in there. This is stuff I've been compiling over the years and finally got it in a book. And also the back section of the book, almost the back half, is like a huge paranormal glossary. So if you are interested in terms and things like that, guys, this book is phenomenal. I mean, I'm just going to brag on myself, but guys, you need to get this book. I'm telling you, it helps people of all parts of, even if you just, it's even worth it just for the glossary. If you're just watching and you're like, well, I don't do any paranormal investigations, it's worth it for the glossary alone. Okay. All the other stuff is bonus, and you can kind of see behind the scenes then. So, guys, don't forget my book, Paranormal Investigations, a complete field guide. Um, Also, I know, Jen, you want to maybe talk a little bit about, your situation or our situation with the wellness center and
I can, yeah. So yeah, we started Warrior Awakening Wellness. Sorry, I was a little distracted. Got a message from Andrea. They have a family emergency and they
oh,
are not to the hospital. So she's not with us now.
oh, good.
And so I apologize. I was just getting that message from her. So positive vibes and good thoughts and prayers for them.
Yes.
But sorry. Yes, Warrior. Oh, there we go. Warrior Awakening Wellness Center. This has really been a special thing for me. Um, and it's been a long time coming. It's been a decade of work, not just on myself, but of planning and learning and growing to be ready to take on this next stage. And it is literally a place for everybody, right? It's not a therapy office. It's not a doctor's office. It's not a place like that. It is a place where you can explore yourself. It's a place where all spiritual beliefs are welcome. It's for people who, maybe their spiritual beliefs didn't fit in a church and they were told to leave, but maybe their religious beliefs didn't fit in another community and they were unwelcome there. Maybe they didn't fit in with their family. Maybe there's a long history there. Maybe there's somebody who's working through recovery or trauma and they're just struggling to figure out who they are and what they're supposed to be. And that's what really Warrior Awakening Wellness is about. But as part of that, it's, not just personal development, understanding yourself, but also spiritual development. And it's so important for the paranormal field too, because we talk about spiritual maintenance all the time. We talk about how important it is to make sure that we aren't bringing things home with us, right? No hitchhikers allowed. We talk about going into places that just have, maybe some witchcraft was done there and it's very negative. We talk about the impacts of it or helping others and how draining it can be on us. We talk about so many different things in the paranormal and um, why spiritual maintenance is so important. And people are always asking questions about, remote viewing. They're asking questions about, why they practice the way they practice, what their intuition is, how do they have abilities, what do these abilities mean? They've had this happen since they were kids, and trying to find answers, right? Or maybe there's somebody who doesn't have any of those experiences and they want to know why it seems like they're the only one in the paranormal field who hasn't experienced these things. Well, Warrior Awakening is a place where we can look into that, discuss that, and decide if that's part of your actual journey, and that you shouldn't feel uncomfortable in that skin, right? As part of that, sorry, I didn't mean to get long-winded. I didn't have anything planned, so it just kind of came out. As part of that, I have written a book and a workbook to go with it. The book is called Who the Hell Am I? And you can get it on Amazon right now. The workbook that goes with it is The Roadmap Out of Hell, and is really intended for everybody, whether you're in the paranormal or not, to really take that minute and self-reflect, making sure you know yourself and you understand yourself, right? And from there, being able to develop your future and what you want, living authentically as yourself. So that is definitely out there. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about that, and or get that to you if you need it. I'm excited about it. It's a lot of my own journey, a lot of the things I've learned along the way, that I know work. I've seen them work for myself. I've seen them work for many others. Because I've been doing this a long time. I just never made it official. And here we are. So it works well with Soulfire and where we're going.
Yes. Stacy, what do you
Well, I mean, if anybody's interested, I have a bunch of courses that are available on udemy.com. They encompass remote viewing. I learned remote viewing from Ed Dames himself. The courses that I have there are following protocols that I learned. I'm also a Palo Mayombe priest, which, if you don't know what that is a African diaspora religion similar to Santeria. As a matter of fact, a lot of people refer to Palo Mayombe as being the dark side of Santeria. They have nothing to do with each other. The only thing they have anything in common is they both came out of Africa. Santeria came out of Yoruba, West Africa, and the Palo Mayombe came out of the Congo. They were both brought over to the Western Hemisphere through slavery and took root in the Caribbean and in, the South. A lot of what we understand to be, American hoodoo is a hybridization of both Palo Mayombe, Voodoo, Santeria, and Native American traditions, just without the religious trappings or the pantheon that goes with it. The spirit of this, the god of that, all has been stripped out in hoodoo. I teach that in these courses, basically the recipes of the medicine work that took place without the religious trappings. So if you want to learn about hoodoo and things of that kind, spiritism, talking to the dead, divination, that's all in there. You can go out there. My post failed for whatever reason. If you go to udemy.com and just type in remote viewing, I'm the only person on Udemy that actually teaches remote viewing. And you can get the whole course catalog of all of that just by doing a search on udemy.com.
Yeah, we'll try to get the link for Stacy stuff in there. We'll try to get the links for some of this other stuff because I wasn't prepared for whatever links we were going to talk. I don't even have my book link in. I don't think in there. And Jen's, I think we have the Wellness Center now in there. I don't know, but we'll make sure we get links down below here real soon. Once the show, finalizes, I'll get links in there and edit those in there, and I'll get the one for Stacy for you in there too. And I think the last thing on announcement wise goes is so guys, big announcement for if you are anywhere in sort of like central Tennessee area, South Kentucky maybe, but September 12th, Soulfire Paranormal is hosting its own sort of spiritual festival called the Crossroads Gathering. It's going to be in Dixon, Tennessee. Again, September 12th. It's going to be free admission. We're going to have multiple vendors. We've got, in fact, I believe Mark is coming, right, from Night Vision.
Night Vision Paranormal will be there. They are a paranormal and cryptid team. And it sounds like Mom will be there with Violet Skies, her metaphysical shop.
That's
Um,
Violet. Violet, not violent.
I said
Violet.
Violet.
I know. I'm just clarifying because
Don't give Mom reasons, okay?
our viewers might think violence, guys. Go ahead. I
No.
didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought now, but
Yeah, no, we're excited to have both of them there as vendors. And we're trying to keep it very local, so everybody that's in with 2 hours, maybe even the guys from Monsters Unleashed will swing by because they're not far away. They're up there with Mark. That would be fun too, since they've been on the show with us as well. And we just have a lot of different vendors. We've got coffee, we've got food, we've got metaphysical, we've got readers, we've got
and not just any coffee, that
yeah,
dang coffee.
that
That
dang
dang
coffee.
coffee.
Yep.
Right, is going to be there. We got crystals from the Crystal Garden. We got the plant shop from what Lillian's
Lillian Roses
Lillian Rose
garden.
Garden. The name always
Yeah.
confuses me.
Yeah, and
So
the boho witch will be there. Ase apothecary will be there. We have a ton of great vendors doing
right,
all kinds of things.
and if we missed you, like, it's just because we're trying to remember off the top of our head. We got a lot of people there. Hot Wheels food truck is going to be there. So yeah, guys, plenty of stuff to do. It'll be for Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we look forward to being there. We of course will be there. Hopefully we'll be doing like some giving away some headshots, like signing some headshots, and then also uh, probably doing some announcements, maybe even a little bit of speaking. Who knows? But it's going to be a fun event. So for anyways, so we just wanted to announce that with you guys. We've been working on it, and with the city of Dixon and things like that too. So, like I said, guys, we have a ton of things like Soulfire. Between the Paranormal Council and everything that we're doing, we're really trying to create a big umbrella of things to help you guys out as far as everything from education to actual help, mental health, spiritual health, all kinds of things. So we are, again, slowly but surely releasing a lot of big things and big. So stay tuned for more big announcements real soon. So let's kind of wrap up, guys, on your final thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch. Um, and what do you guys? So what do you guys think? On Stacy, do you have any kind of overall thoughts or things on the whole Skinwalker stuff?
It's an enigma. I don't draw any conclusions on enigma targets. It's only because no matter how much you peel it back, it's still gonna come up with, you know, rogue elements that just don't fit. So uh, until everything is known, it's unknown.
Okay. Oh, and before Jen says anything, guys, I almost forgot. Discord. After this, we got the Discord after party. So if you're not part of the community, it's starting to grow. We're getting some conversation in there. We're all starting to meet up after the show, and that's when we're sort of more unfiltered and a chance to really get, and you can become part of that conversation. So, guys, go to Discord, the Paranormal Council Discord. If you can't get the link, hit up somebody. We'll get you the link. Jen,
Absolutely.
what's your final thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch?
Um, I don't know. We definitely enjoy it. I definitely think there's a lot of things going on there. If I had the opportunity to go check it out, I absolutely would. Not necessarily as part of their experiment, so that would be fun too. And getting to learn more. Always want to learn more, but I think we can encounter the paranormal anywhere. I think these things are all around us. I think there's a lot of history. It's not the only place that's ever been hit by meteors. It's not the only place that's, had studies done for our space exploration, or that where they've tested things. The government has tested things. Um, and, I think I would just encourage everybody to just start looking, right? Look around, learn around you, because everywhere you are, there's stuff. We just don't see it. We don't hear it. We don't know it's there. We don't understand radio waves that we encounter every single day. So let's learn and grow.
Yeah. I think for me, the takeaway from the show to me pushes me to. I actually want to do more scientific stuff in the field of paranormal. It gives me a lot more ideas. It gives me. It also makes me want to be better at my scientific methodology. That's for sure. But you know, I think for me that's the biggest thing is it gives me ideas. It inspires me for ideas. Other than that, the actual content of what's there, it's intriguing. It's intriguing, but at the same time, it's annoying because they're never quite. Can you imagine the first day they go there and it's like, hey, look, we figured it out. Look, we ran a bunch of instruments and we figured out, we got this here. So show's over. So they've had the. I don't know if they've just purposely dragging it on or it just seems like there's things where you're kind of going, okay, I thought we kind of already clarified this, like I talked about the magnetic anomaly stuff. If it's such a big concentrated area, then of course it's going to mess with your GPS and all these different things. Like they keep having these failures in there, but then they keep going, I don't know why. Well, you did discover some reasons, so why don't you suggest that? Like, well, maybe it's the magnetic anomaly stuff and blah blah blah. Anyways, so
I think they're milking it personally. I mean, Oak Island, the TV show, they do the same thing. How many seasons has it been? And they're still digging a hole. We found a coin. It's pieces of 8. It's 30 feet down, and they just keep milking it longer and longer and longer. I think that's what it's really come down to as far as like the TV show is concerned.
yeah, and I would agree to that point because also my other thought is this. So I also look at it like so they had a major team there prior to when Bigelow answered. There was a guy like Robert Bigelow who owned the property right before Brandon Fugel, and who currently owns it and does the show. Well, Bigelow's team, they came in and they were like, we're talking like massive stuff going on, military things going on too. He was working with the government and they were doing all kinds of stuff in there. And that stuff is not on a TV show and that hasn't been talked about. That's been confidential. I personally think if there was anything that was leading to some bigger discovery, that property would not have been sold to Brandon Fugel. There would not be a TV show, and it would still be under like basically some type of government contract, or it would be closed down. That's just my overall take. I think they came in, they did all the stuff they needed to do during the Bigelow era, discovered everything they needed to know, probably buried up a bunch of other shit, dynamite, whatever, buried stuff over, tossed in a coin. Well, no, they didn't toss in a coin because the 64 was way earlier. But they like buried everything, and then they said, okay. And then Brandon Fugel's like, hey, money opportunity. Let me buy this place so I can do a show. I'm going to bring in a team, and this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a reality-based type show, and and I think they're trying to do some things. I'm not trying to discredit like some of that. I'm sure there's some genuine. They really are trying to figure out some things, I'm sure. But at the same time, you can see where the TV show aspect of it definitely hits. So that's some of my final thoughts. Guys, we're going to end the show. Jen, did you want to hop in? Was you getting ready to say something?
Yeah.
You wanted to hop in real quick before I ended.
Well, we might need to have another discussion about Skinwalker. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about when, talking about methodologies, talking about more of the Skinwalker presence, talking about the different types of experiments that they're doing, how we can incorporate or not incorporate some of that in the paranormal. There's a whole lot more to talk about, and I think we should probably do another episode when Sean's here, seeing as he's been there. And give Sean a chance to talk about his other podcast and everything that he does, because I know a lot of our viewers would be interested in that as well. So,
well, and guess what, guys? We are going to take this over to the Discord, so maybe we'll continue this discussion in Discord, and we'll get into some fun stuff in there. So, guys, thank you for joining us. We love you guys. Thank you all so much. Please like and share this. That you guys have been helping to grow the show. It's been really starting to get a lot more views and starting to pop up a lot more places. So guys, keep smashing or haunting that like button. Keep doing that for us and share it out there. We love you guys, and we will see you in the next episode, or even right now in Discord. All right, guys.
Peace.